Most people think respect is lost in big moments, a failure, a bad decision, a public embarrassment. But in reality, respect is usually lost in much smaller moments. A joke, a casual comment, a label. Moments that look harmless, moments most people ignore. But they are not random. They are tests, small social signals people use to measure something about you. Your confidence, your composure, your boundaries. And most of the time, people fail these tests without ever realizing they were being tested. Today we're going to talk about these tests, the invisible ones, the unnamed ones, but the ones that once you start seeing them show up everywhere. We call them invisible status tests. And after this video ends, you will never be able to walk into a conversation quite the same way again. Let's start with somewhere familiar, a place most of us spend a third of our lives. Picture this. You're in a meeting, you're talking, you're proposing an idea, and right in the middle of it, someone cuts in, without lowering their voice, without apologizing, as if you were never speaking. Then they repeat your idea back in their own words, and everyone nods. Did you catch what just happened? The idea was yours, but the credit is theirs. That wasn't an accident. That was a test. They were watching you. What are you going to do? Are you going to push back, or are you going to stay quiet? Most people stay quiet. And in that moment, they lose a little status, without noticing, without a sound. Now leave the office, close that door behind you. We're going somewhere more personal. Now somewhere closer. You're in the middle of an argument. Your partner says something. You always do this. Wait. Always. That's a powerful word. Not a specific incident. A label. And now what are you going to do? Are you going to get defensive? Say, no, I don't. If you go defensive, you've accepted the frame of the argument. You've accepted the label. And the conversation is no longer on ground you chose. This was a test too. Maybe not a status test exactly, but a frame test. Who sets the rules of this argument? Who's busy disproving what the other person said? Now step out of that room too. No argument here. No tension in the air. Just friends. A table. Casual conversation. Or so it seems. A group conversation. Someone says something casually like they're joking. You're just such a serious person. Everyone smiles. You smile too. But something just happened. A label was placed on you. The serious one. The overthinker. The one who can't loosen up. And that label will still be there in the next conversation. If you don't push back, this is now your identity inside the group. Small, quiet, almost imperceptible, but very real. One more. This one is quieter than the rest, but possibly the most sophisticated. Pay close attention. Someone asks you something. Why are you always so defensive? Stop. That is not an innocent question. There's an assumption buried inside it. The assumption that you are defensive. And the question presents it as fact. Now what do? If you say I'm not defensive, you've just defended yourself, meaning you've done exactly what was accused. It's a trap, an elegant trap, but a trap. And to pass this test, you first have to see it. 4 scenarios, 4 different rooms, 4 different relationships, but the same structure underneath. So let's go deeper, not into the situations, into the people. So why do people run these tests? Consciously. Sometimes yes, but most of the time no. Most of these behaviors are instinctive, evolutionary, a survival reflex inside social hierarchy. Nietzsche said something worth remembering. People want power, not just physical power, social power, the power to control influence. And that power is rarely won through grand gestures. It's won in small moments, in small tests. Machiavelli looked at it from a different angle. The person who holds power tests their opponent's responses, not openly, indirectly, through behaviors that appear harmless, because an open attack creates resistance. But a small test usually goes unanswered. And every test that goes unanswered shifts the balance of power a little further. Carl Jung invites us towards something else entirely. The shadow. Every person has a side they refuse to acknowledge, a repressed, denied side. And sometimes when people test others, they are actually projecting their own shadow, their own insecurities, their own fears about hierarchy, their own need for validation. These tests don't just measure you, they also reveal the person running them. We've seen the psychology. Now let's watch the pattern spread. Because this doesn't stay contained in one relationship or one office. It scales. Now let's look at the wider picture. This pattern doesn't live in just one place. It's everywhere. There's a manager. In every meeting, they subtly dismiss someone's ideas. Isn't that a bit naive, they say, smiling, gently. This isn't an insult on the surface, but it's a positioning move. I am the analytical thinker here. You are not. And the team hears this, and the team starts to believe it, again and again and again. Now think about this. Someone new arrives, experienced, confident, someone who doesn't fit the manager's established patterns. In the very first meeting, the manager says, "How did you handle this at your previous company?" It sounds like a neutral question, but it isn't. The message is simple. You are a stranger here. We decide how things are done. Now leave the office again. This time we're not going home. We're going somewhere more dangerous in its own quiet way. In friend groups, there's a group, the same group for years, the same dynamics. Then someone starts doing better, gets a promotion, gets married, achieves something, and the group does this. You've changed a little, haven't you? Just that sentence, but it's loaded. The message underneath it is simple. You're no longer at our level, and we want you to acknowledge that, or come back down. This is a status test, a reflex to preserve the group hierarchy. Back inside now, 4 walls, 2 people, they're arguing, and one of them says something. You always make everything bigger than it is. That sentence is dangerous, because now the argument is no longer about what happened. It's about whether your reaction is normal. The subject shifts, the ground shifts, and you shift. If you don't notice this, you stop defending the argument and start defending yourself. Now zoom out completely, further than work, further than friends, further than any single relationship. At the broadest level, people build their social status not through grand gestures and dramatic actions, but in small moments. How do you talk to a waiter at a restaurant? How quickly do you get defensive in a disagreement? How do you make people feel when they criticize you? What does your silence say? All of this is being read, always, by everyone, usually without conscious awareness. Stop for a moment. Before we go any further, there are 3 moments in this video where something clicks, where you stop just hearing the words and start actually seeing the mechanism. This is the first one. Remember this, a question is not always just a question. Why are you so sensitive assumes that you are sensitive. Why did you need to do that assumes that you made a mistake. Are you always like this assumes that you fit a pattern. If you try to answer these questions, you've already accepted the assumptions. The game was over right there. You lost without realizing it. So what do? Instead of answering the question, you make the assumption inside it visible. You think I'm being sensitive. It's a simple sentence. But it changes everything. Now you're the one asking. Now you're the one framing. Now you're the one observing. Second moment. This one is about what your body does before your mind catches up. When people test you, the natural reflex is to get defensive. But defensiveness communicates something. It says this is affecting me. It says this matters to me. It says I need to spend energy stopping you. But the most powerful response is usually not defense. It's observation. That's an interesting way to frame it. That sentence is not an attack. It's not a defense. It's a step back. And that step carries status. Think about it. If someone says you're so serious and you can smile and say, yeah, I think that's probably true, you've passed the test, because the label didn't land. They can see it didn't land. And a person who can't be rattled isn't worth testing. Third moment, and this might be the deepest of all. Why do people get defensive? Because they are not sure. A person who is unsure of themselves treats every claim as a threat, every question as an attack, every label as a truth. But a person who is secure in themselves sees something different. A claim is just a claim. A question is just a question. A label is just someone's opinion, not a threat. Information. And processing information takes far less energy than defending against it. That's why the most grounded people don't defend. They observe, they assess, and they choose. You've seen the patterns, you've seen the psychology. Now let's talk about what you actually do with this. Every conversation has a frame. The frame determines what the topic is, who carries responsibility, which words are valid, whose definitions are accepted. The person who sets the frame holds the higher position in that conversation. And the frame is usually set in the first words. When someone says you're so defensive, they've already set the frame. Noticing this and gently resetting it is one of the most fundamental skills. Do I seem defensive to you? Interesting. I thought I was being inquisitive. The frame shifted. The second tool is simpler but harder to actually do. Reacting is fast, immediate, automatic, and usually works against you. Because when you react, you've been pulled into the emotional weight of the moment. Observation is different. Observation takes time. It requires distance, but it carries power. When someone tests you, if you can wait just 1 second, you can see what's actually happening. And once you see it, half the problem is already solved. Third tool, silence. Most people experience silence as danger. I need to say something. I need to fill this gap. But silence is not a gap. Silence is a weight. And that weight usually falls on the person who feels compelled to speak. Someone just criticized you, and you simply looked at them, calmly, comfortably. What happened? The criticism hung in the air, and the person who felt the need to resolve it was the same person who said it. Silence is sometimes the most powerful response. And the last technique is role reversal. Someone is trying to corner you, asking questions, attaching labels, applying pressure, and you ask a question. I'm curious why that feels important to you. I'm curious what you think about this. Simple, calm, but deep. The role just changed. Now you're the one asking, now you're the one observing, and they are the one who has to answer. Now take a step back. After seeing all these tests, dynamics, and patterns, there's one question left. Why do people do this? The answer is both simple and complicated. Because status is scarce. Not everyone in a group can occupy the same level. And when people are left unconscious of this, they build hierarchies automatically, without thinking, by reflex. That doesn't make them bad, it makes them human. But awareness can interrupt that automation. And here's the paradox. The people who run the most tests are often the ones who feel the most insecure. The person testing you is usually testing themselves. Most conversations are not battles for truth. They are negotiations of position. And the most powerful person in the room is not the fastest to attack. It's the one who watches with the most stillness.